Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, Hall of Fame voter. He also is the one that helped not just nudge, but get Chuck Howley into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as the new class was introduced. We kind of knew about the seniors, the veterans. Great job by John McClain. John, thank you very much. And your thoughts about what we saw Sunday, huge numbers, that's not a surprise. Chiefs and Eagles, great game. Just the overall thoughts and summary of Super Bowl 57.
David, first I'd like to say something about Chuck Howley, who I presented to the Seniors Committee and the Selection Committee, and he made the Hall of Fame 50 years after he retired. I grew up watching him in Waco as a diehard Cowboy fan. And I wrote a column on gallerysports.com. There's no paywall. It's right there. You can go under my name and see it. And it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I took my boss at Gallery Sports, Mattress Mac, the country's most renowned gambler, and he grew up in Dallas as a diehard Cowboys fan of the 60s like I was. And Chuck, who has Alzheimer's really bad, but his family invited me to come. I asked if I could bring a friend. I said a guy named Jim McInville. They go, Mattress Mac's coming to our house, and asked me to come early so they could meet him. And we're there, and we're hanging out, and Mac's talking to the family. And then at a little after 10, the son, Scott, leads his dad over to the front door. Doorbell rings. All the family members are scattered around the foyer, which is really big because it's a big, nice house next door to Staubach. They open the door, and coming in from the pouring rain, are Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly wearing their gold Hall of Fame jackets, followed by Mel Renfro and Cliff Harris in their jackets, and Leroy Jordan and Charlie Waters. The six of them came over, started shaking Chuck's hand, pounding him on the back, welcomed him to the Hall of Fame. Don't know if it registered. Then they moved over into the living room, put Chuck in a chair, had Lilly and Staubach on each side and others around him, and they all started talking about what it meant to have their remembrances. Chuck as a player on the field and as a great leader and friend off the field. NFL mics were there, the boom mics, and Mattress Mac and I were standing behind everybody. And Mac, who's done everything, looks over at me and says, man, I just got to talk to Leroy Jordan. He was my hero growing up. And I just talked to him for 15 minutes. And we sat there, doomsday defensive guys. And it was such a memorable experience. Anyway, I wrote a really long story with pictures that's on gallerysports.com. And I sent it to a bunch of my friends that I grew up with in Waco because I wanted them to see it. I wanted to see that how I said as a 15-year-old me who was a sophomore at Richfield High School and worshiped the Cowboys could never, ever in his wildest dreams envisioned being and be able to experience something like that with those heroes of our youth. And so I hope the listeners will check it out on gallerysports.com and read it. I'd appreciate it.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to the Super Bowl. I thought the hero was not Patrick Mahomes. The hero was Andy Reid, his play design, his play calling, his schemes, the way the long halftime show helped them make adjustments. They were a different team in the second half. And when you have a guy that has one catch for 5 yards, and another one has one catch for 4 yards, Paul Catalina could have caught both of them. So Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. And that wasn't Mahomes. That was the schemes that got them wide open on both sides. And Kansas City's offensive line was so good. They protected Mahomes. Andy's game plan was designed to protect him from the NFL's second greatest pass rush ever to the 84 and 85 Bears. And I thought it was brilliance on Andy Reid's behalf. The biggest disappointment was the Eagles' defense. They got outrushed. The Eagles, who are averaging 200 yards a game rushing in the playoffs, got outrushed by the Chiefs. They got outplayed. They were dominated. And Jonathan Gannon is the new Arizona coach. And I'm sure when he has his news conference, he's going to be asked about that performance. But I'm so happy for Andy Reid, one of the all-time great guys. And people are talking about Mahomes being one of the greatest ever. And yes, he is. But he's only halfway to Montana and Bradshaw, who had 4 Super Bowls. And once he gets there, we can start talking about Brady. But he is the greatest player in the NFL. And I think they ought to tear up that 10-year contract he signed in 18 and give him a new deal that makes him the highest paid like he deserves to be.
John, how do you think the rest of the league will start reacting to the Chiefs? Because they are, 3 out of the last 4 years they've been there. They've won 2 of these now. That's kind of how everybody starts moving to try and attack. They're going to have to stop Patrick Mahomes eventually.
Chiefs think they're the Astros. They've been a 4 World Series, won 2. I've been to the American League Championship Series 6 years in a row. Now they're favored this year. And when you get on top, the key is you're not going to be able to keep all your players. You're going to have to make financial decisions. They did that with Tyreek Hill. They traded to Miami. Most of us thought, wow, how's Mahomes going to get by without his best receiver, wide receiver? Kelsey's his best receiver. And it doesn't seem to matter who they put in there. They do great. And that is because Brett Veach, the GM, while Andy Reid has final say on personnel, Veach does a great job, he and his staff, of finding players that fit what they do, fit their culture. Now, I say their culture. They got some bad guys on that team like Frank Clark, who beat up his girlfriend, got kicked out of Michigan State. But still, they have a winning culture. And I think it starts with Andy Reid. He's not going anywhere. He's 65. Coaches like Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, coach into their 70s, and Mahomes is 27. Has more Super Bowls at that age than anybody but Brady, who had one more. They're going to be favored every year. And it's like Eric Bieniemy. There's all these offers to be an offensive coordinator at other teams. Why would he want to go to other teams when he could stay there and have a chance to get rings and a humongous payday if he's going to be an offensive coordinator?
John, how do you digest this and evaluate it from the Eagles' perspective, and how do you think that they're going to take this? Jalen Hurts, I'm sure, will be better for it. That's just kind of how he's taken lumps throughout his career and always seems to bounce back in a great way. But how do you digest this from the Eagles' point of view?
Hurts played a great game, and they could have won. If not for that ticky-tacky call on James Bradbury, it would have been tied. I'd love to see what Hurts could have done on the last drive, but that's not why they lost. You become the second team in history to blow a double-digit halftime lead. You don't deserve to win. 3 of their defensive linemen are going to be unrestricted. The center and team leader, Jason Kelsey's unrestricted. Running back Miles Sanders, their leading rusher, is going to be unrestricted unless they can re-sign him. And they're going to have cap problems. They're lucky that Hurts now, does he get a big deal after 3 years going into his 4th year? Are they going to wait another year to do it? But they got serious financial problems. Everything had been built up for this season. They had a great season. They lose an exciting Super Bowl, no shame in that. But, boy, they got some problems with upcoming free agency and losing both your coordinators. They have a quarterback coach, Brian Johnson, will step up as offensive coordinator, and he's very highly thought of. People think he'll be a head coach. And I don't know what they're going to do on defense. There's so many coaches available because they got fired. Coordinators got fired by playoff teams that lost. And a guy like Kellen Moore, he bounces the Chargers to where he's coaching Justin Herbert. But I think they got a good thing going there. General Manager Howie Roseman, Executive of the Year, Sirianni, did a tremendous job. So Eagles, I think, right up there with the Cowboys, will be favored to win a very, very tough NFC East that plays the AFC West.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Wow.
Sean McClain again, GallerySports.com, 610 Sports Radio, with us on 365 Sports.
John, what do you think is the future for Derek Carr? Where's the best fit for him?
First of all, he was so smart to turn down the trade with the Saints. People, how could he walk away from $40 million? Well, it's because he's going to get a whole lot more than $40 million. There are so many teams out there desperate for quarterbacks. All the teams in the NFC South, the one he signs with, maybe the Saints, maybe the Panthers, they're automatically going to be favored to win the worst division in football. The Jets, all the fans and the media are talking about Aaron Rodgers. Do you want Aaron Rodgers and his $58.3 million contract at 39, and he's become a fruitcake, and he hadn't been in the Super Bowl since 2010? And yes, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but do you want him for 1 or maybe 2 years and what it'll do to the salary cap, or do you want 30-year-old Derek Carr who threw for almost 5,000 yards in 2021, Washington? You know, if I'm Cowboy fans and Eagle fans, I don't want Derek Carr ended up in Washington with that defense and that running game. And so if you're not in a position to draft Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or maybe Will Levis, you know, you're going to be after Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo, and Carr's got a month head start. And that was such smart maneuvering by his agent.
You mentioned Bieniemy or anyone attached to the Chiefs and staying where they are. There was a report, not sure if it's true or not, that there are some other teams looking at him. Washington maybe as an offensive coordinator. Cardinals hired Gannon to be their new head coach. What did you think of Andy Reid, who stood in front of the owners at the meetings and mentioned Eric Bieniemy, but also how he mentioned him very quickly in the post-game interview about the adjustments the Chiefs made at halftime?
Well, he's trying to help Eric Bieniemy get another job. I think that ship has sailed. He's had so many interviews without getting one. It's pretty obvious he doesn't do well in interviews. You'd think he'd have professional help. And he stays right there. He's got a chance to go to the Super Bowl every year. If, say, he went with Jonathan Gannon to Arizona and he's coaching Kyler Murray, who's infamous for not working hard on the game plans, or does he go to work for Daniel Snyder? You know, there's a reason that grass is not always greener. If he thinks, boy, then I go and I'm calling plays, not Andy Reid, and I don't have Andy looking over my shoulder, and then what if it doesn't work? And what if in 2 or 3 years he's fired and he's on the street and Andy Reid's already got another coordinator? You know, at some point he's going to have to come to grips with his situation and say, I can stay here every year with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and have a chance to be a champion.
John, your red-hot Baylor Bears men's basketball team, they were 0-3. They're 9-4, tied right now atop the league with Texas.
Yeah, I saw that Jonathan Chachua is the way he pronounces it. I just wish the announcers could figure that out. Having him back, as you guys know, I don't know what percentage he is or if he's as explosive, but just having him on the floor is so great. And I love it. Keontae George doesn't hit double figures, but he rebounds, he passes the ball. You know, I think if they get into a game with a team that's got good big men, those guards are going to have to hit the threes, but they have hit their stride. It's very exciting. I watch all the games, and that Kansas game is going to be on ESPN Monday night. You know, I'm hoping they get a little revenge, but the Big 12 is just so tough, and people down here with U of H being ranked 2 or 3, whatever they are, they know they better do it this year, because when they get into the Big 12, it ain't going to be like the conference they're in right now. It's just so much fun to watch, and it's great to see those fighting Baylor Bears turn it around, start winning for Scott Drew, and I can't wait to watch them play.
John, we appreciate the insight on the background of Chuck Howley. You've kept us in touch with that. But the story, go to gallerysports.com and look for the story, the background and the insight of the moment. Chuck Howley and, of course, a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and John McClain had a hell of a lot to do with that, like you've had others that you've been able to go to bat for who are now a part of enshrinement in Canton, Ohio. Thanks for your time. Have a great week, John.
Yeah, I just got one thing to say about that, guys. Sick 'em.
Thank you very much, John McClain. Oh, I didn't ask him about